Welcome to this week's episode of Made for Mexico. TIM, this is Mexico, and this is the show where we discover if you are made for Mexico. I am Erin May, and today my guest is my beautiful wife again, Erin May.
Hello.
Welcome back, Erin.
Thank you for having me back.
Erin is, in case I didn't share this in the past, she's our co-founder of Mexico Living and co-founder of Bayside Real Estate and currently CEO of Bayside Vacations. So always good to have you on the show, Erin.
Thanks.
This week's episode is basically our theme of the show, TIM, This is Mexico. And the reason the theme of the show is this is exactly what I said in the intro. We're trying to help people figure out if Mexico is something for you to invest, to move to live in, because it's not for everyone. We have so many things we love about Mexico, and we think it's the best place to live on earth, quite frankly. But maybe not everyone does, but there's so many things we love about it, but then there's also some things that might be a little bit challenging or different than what we've been used to in Canada. So, we like to say TIM, this is Mexico, whether it's the good stuff or the challenging stuff, you got to roll with it a little bit, roll with the good and roll with the bad, so to speak.
Mexico's different on purpose, and that's what makes it amazing. Yeah,
absolutely. So we got a bunch of examples and things we've thought about and experienced over the years. So, I always like to start the show this way. So what are the things that you love about Mexico? What do you think some of the things you love about living here, Erin?
Well, the people first and foremost.
The people.
The incredible climate and weather, 340 days of sunshine, the food, cost of living. Yeah, those are the things I love.
Yeah, I think in comparison to many different countries that a person can choose to live in, Mexico is just so welcoming. The people really make it special. Right from the beginning, I felt very welcomed by so many people, excited we were doing business here, excited to do business with us. And, I think like a lot of Mexican people thought it was just cool that we moved here and we're living here, and they were proud of their country, right? So
yeah, and they should be for sure.
Yeah, and of course, being Canadians, the weather, as you said, it's a big thing. So
yeah.
Well, let's start with driving as a topic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Driving in Mexico. Well, I mean, the thing that I noticed immediately when we moved here is just there's not a lot of aggression or road rage, especially here on the Oaxaca coast. It's very horns are kind of more mode of communication, like a little beep beep, but there's no anger, or there's no, even if you're cut off, it's like the reaction is not to be angry or.
I've never seen road rage.
I've never experienced
At least not from a Mexican or the most other people.
Yeah.
I do know one guy.
You do know one couple guys?
Yeah. So I should say never, but you pretty much don't see road rage.
I've never witnessed it. And I love that, there's never anger, or it's just easy.
The rules of the road, you just kind of got to go with the flow a little bit sometimes.
Yeah.
And
you always say, keep your head on a
swivel.
And I tell people that all the time, and they're like, yeah, you're right. You got to just keep your head on a swivel.
Just make sure you don't hit anybody and don't get hit by anybody.
Yeah.
And that's really the biggest.
And then you're good.
Biggest rules, there's I remember when we were in Puerto Vallarta and I was so confused. I had to make a left turn. And in order to make that left turn, I had to exit right to the very right lane. And then a certain light turned on and we turned across not only the oncoming lane of traffic, but we turned across our lane of traffic. They of course stopped. They had a stop sign, but to turn left, that was on the main boulevard.
Yeah.
Remember when we were driving down?
Yeah. Okay. And then can I just bring something up too that I just learned in the last year? And anybody correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I was told is that if you got a two-way, like you're crossing a busy road and you're heading straight and someone's turning left, in Canada, the United States, the person going straight has the right of way. Here, apparently, it's opposite. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the person turning left has the right of way.
I just learned that. And now I'm wondering why I've gotten looks. Not road rage, but just looks.
Yeah. No, they got the right of way on a stop sign, not on a through street.
Yeah,
not
on a stop sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not on a through street. But,
all right. Yep.
Yeah.
It's true.
So there's little things like that, and the left signal when you're driving down the curvy road means, pass me, but that can be a little confusing sometimes because it might mean they're turning left.
Yeah, we experienced that a few times.
Am I supposed to pass, or they turn left, or sometimes they just signal left and they're actually turning right. So you just got to keep aware, keep your head on a swivel, not to go too fast, and everything works
will
out.
be A-okay.
TIM. This is Mexico.
What about topes?
Oh, topes. So a tope, for anybody who doesn't know, they also can be referred to here as reducers on signage. A tope or a reducer. Basically, they're a speed bump.
Right.
Speed bump. So
to slow people down.
So in Mexico, the system is very different than in the U.S. There's no formal revenue generating system for the government by the police giving tickets. So that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So
no photo radar. No eye in the sky.
There's nobody trying to meet. There's no police officer trying to meet their quota every month and a certain amount of tickets. So they don't really have speed control. So, which presents maybe a bit of a problem if everyone just would drive like Mario Andretti and ripping around. So they put in these speed bumps.
Well, and on highways too, because you're driving through lots of different towns.
Lots of little towns.
People are on the road and walking.
So you can be driving 100 kilometers an hour, and then there's a sign, and I gotta hit the brakes pretty hard to get over this tope.
Yeah, but sometimes there's not a sign.
And that's where the frustration really comes in, or the surprisingly frustrating. I mean, it's a bit frustrating just the tope alone because there can be a lot of them, and it's a little bit hard on your vehicle.
Yeah, for sure.
Your brakes, your shocks, your struts, just actively, successfully doing the topes is a bit frustrating.
You have some experience.
I've driven a lot down here, and driving from Canada all the way, especially when we took the West Coast route down the 200, we did a lot of topes.
Yeah.
I do a lot of topes driving to Puerto Escondido and back.
Yeah, you do.
So, but then, just doing it successfully is a bit of frustrating. But then, yes, there's often a case where you miss one. Maybe you're looking out at the skyline, at the ocean, or maybe they're not very well marked. Sometimes there's no sign. Sometimes they're not painted.
Right.
So there becomes another level of frustration there. And this is definitely a TIM thing. This is Mexico. But I remember my first year living down here, I traveled to Puerto Escondido a lot. We were living in the little Puerto Angel, our fishing village. And I'd drive to Puerto a lot. And I'm trying to remember why it was. I didn't have my truck. So I was,
you had a little rental car.
Maybe I haven't even got it down. A little rental car.
A little egg.
One of those little bubble cars, yeah. So I'm like bombing along, and it was dark. It was nighttime. I was doing about 80 kilometers an hour, and I got into this town getting closer to Porto called Tomatal. And I'm cruising along, and I freaking out of nowhere hit this tope that was freshly installed. So I just put it down there, and I'm talking... There was no sign, there was no pylon, there was no paint, there was nothing. And I think they had just installed them that day or the day before, and they were rectangular.
Let's talk about the shape of it.
They were rectangular. Like there was no smooth. So I hit, and I'm driving this car that has wheels the size of a wagon, basically. and I hit straight on, and literally the car flew into the air, and I must have hit with my one tire a little bit forward because I spun to the side, and I landed on 2 wheels, and then rocked back down onto all 4 wheels. And I was gripping the wheel so hard.
Yeah, I remember you called me.
I thought I was going to die. And then I just looked around and I was like, oh my effing gosh. Like, holy. And I just started driving away.
Yeah. So,
well, you know, later I was staying at Casa Dan's. You know, I brought up him in another episode and brought this up in conversation. He's like, you did that too. And he had one. So then, you know, later on, it must have happened to many people.
Oh, I'm sure.
They rounded them out.
They chiseled them down a bit.
Well, they didn't chisel them down. They rounded them out. And to this day, you can see how they round and then they dip in the middle and then round over because they did it afterwards.
I tell people when I'm driving through there, I tell people the story and we're like, wait for it. Here's the tope.
You don't want to miss those ones.
No.
And that's the story of the tope. You know, my favorite topes in the world are the Zippolite topes.
Yeah, they're pretty.
They're
like the town they're in.
Pretty freedom. You're pretty easy going. You know, the Zippolite topes.
They represent.
Yeah, you don't really have to slow down. Just the main one coming in town.
Yeah.
The rest are like, you know, we're pretty free flowing, the topes.
Yeah, you can go a little faster over us. We're not going to hurt you.
But yeah, never trust a tope. Never miss a tope.
Trust a tope.
You know, they're definitely a TIM. This is Mexico situation. Something else I think we really love is the pace of life.
Oh, huge. Yes. It's definitely more relaxed pace. Mañana is a thing, you know.
Mañana is a real thing. So for those who don't know, mañana, it's like a cultural thing, big time. It just means it's not happening today. Doesn't mean it's happening tomorrow. It's just not happening today. It could be 2 days, 3 days, 4 days.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. But it's going to happen tomorrow. No, maybe not tomorrow. It's just not happening today.
Yeah. But what else? Like showing up to a party?
Yeah, showing up to a party is a fun one. And
we've learned that part.
Yeah.
So if a party, you know, starts at 7, it's typical that, you know, maybe everyone's not showing up until 8:30.
Well, and especially, Mexican culture, it's standard. If they say come at 7, show up at 8. That means you show up at 8:30. If you come at 7, you're going to be part of the setup crew.
Yeah. I've been a part of the setup
crew. You're going to be like
I've learned
putting tablecloths on and putting food out, moving chairs around.
Yeah.
You know, and it can be a little bit tricky because, you know, we have this nice blend of Canadians and Mexicans, Americans and Mexicans and together. So it's like, what's the criteria of this party?
Yeah.
Who's throwing it? Is this, you know, Mexican style, or are we supposed to show up on time?
Yeah.
So you kind of like split the difference sometimes. You know, instead of showing up 90 minutes after, I'm going to do 45. And I think that should be,
You're safe.
I think that should be safe. So it gets real tricky when we have these blended cultural things happening on. But pace of life is definitely one of the fun ones. And you can say TIM, this is Mexico.
Yeah, we love it.
Yeah. How about noise? You know, what do you got to say about the noise?
Well, Mexico comes with its noise, you know, from your street vendors to your gas trucks in the morning to the guy selling tamales. It's a part of life. Loud music, fireworks, church bells, roosters.
Roosters, yeah.
You know, it's charming and you have to expect that.
There's even beautiful noise, the ocean.
There's beautiful noise.
The birds.
The birds.
Yeah.
The chachalacas.
What's the, what about the bread guy? There's like a song.
El panadero con el pan.
We got the music going and
I love that guy. I love that sound.
Yeah. And, the propane with there's like a cow mooing, I think, or something. And you hear that and you know, the propane guy's coming. You gotta go.
I know. And it's all unique sounds. You know exactly who's coming. And I love it.
Yeah. So TIM, this is Mexico. It comes with its noise. You're not going to change it.
No.
I'll say it's not a free for all. I mean, there is noise.
There's structure. There's
bylaws. 11 p.m. You got to be quiet in most neighborhoods and stuff like that. So it's not like it's just a complete free for all, unless it's Easter or Christmas. And
then bring your earplugs.
I like to say they got the Christmas cannons out.
Yeah.
You know,
people are like, what is that? It's okay.
Yeah, some firecrackers getting lit off. TIM, this is Mexico. Yeah. No, this is customs, greeting people. That was a big difference, right?
Yeah, it's something that I had to get used to for sure. When you greet people, there's a kiss on the cheek. Canadians aren't maybe used to that.
No, it really throws a person off when you're coming from Canada.
But I love it.
I love it too.
Yeah.
And now I just grab people and hug them and give them a kiss.
It's lovely.
So that's standard greeting. Mm-hmm. And, I love seeing how polite a Mexican is. They'll come into a room and go over and, there's 10 people there. They'll give everyone a kiss on the cheek and say hello.
Yeah.
So formal, so polite. We're like, hey,
we're Irish exiting it.
But no, I love it. And I love surprising fellow Canadians too, and coming up to them and they're like, what are you doing? Get away from me.
You're here now.
Yeah.
You're getting a hug.
Yeah. So that's definitely a TIM.
For sure.
This is Mexico. And other little customs I know we really, really love. I mentioned this in our first episode, I watched a businessman come in and he greeted the room. He put his feet together. Buenos dias. Mm-hmm. He wasn't talking to anybody specific, but he stopped and greeted the room.
Yeah.
Thought that was so cool.
Yeah. That's another reason we love it here.
And then while we're eating, young, old, they all say provecho. Mm-hmm. And that's one we love picking up. And, it just means have a nice meal. Yeah. So it's a beautiful thing.
Beautiful.
TIM, this is Mexico.
What else? Cash.
Cash is king.
Cash is king.
That's something to get used to.
Many small businesses, taxis, they're not accepting of credit cards. So, bring cash, get cash, have your cash with you. Try and bring small bills too.
Yeah, you can really get yourself into some trouble if you don't, because...
Oh, can you, Brent? Really?
Well...
I have to say, Brent will message me if he knows I'm going somewhere to maybe our local salon, Airy Salon, if you're going there, I owe them money. I didn't have cash, and also, can you swing by this restaurant? I owe them from a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, not.
You're an IOU guy.
I'm definitely an IOU guy. I think I got a recognizable face.
You're good for it.
Yeah, a lot of businesses do not accept credit card or debit, even very cash driven. So you need to have it. And not that I don't know that, I do, but I'm often entertaining people and it goes through enough cash. So it's hard to keep enough in your wallet sometimes.
No, it is for sure.
So yeah, Erin definitely does her rounds.
I cover you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Picks up my IOUs. I remember a really funny one in Zippolite from years ago, but I won't get into
for another time.
I won't get into that, yeah. So yeah, make sure to bring cash. And before we move on, also bring pesos.
Right.
I'll say, especially in the areas we're focusing on, our top emerging markets. One of the reasons we're focusing on these places, they're places where investors, buyers can really get great appreciation on their investment, but they're also places that have a Mexican identity more so. They're more authentic, and pesos is what you spend.
Yeah.
In Mazatlan, pesos is accepted, not as much on, the U.S. dollars. Not saying you can't spend them, but very much so in Puerto Escondido and Huatuco. It's pesos.
It is.
Bring the currency of your country.
And don't expect that you're going to get the same exchange if you do try.
Yeah, if you're going to bring, you're going to probably get
USD.
a terrible exchange if you're spending US or some places accept Canadian. But the tip there I'll say is download XE Converter to your smartphone. Get a bunch of pesos. You can always use it if you need to cheat a little bit on the exchange. The XE to make sure you know what you're spending. But bring the pesos. Yeah, and cash is king, but in pesos.
Cash is king.
And your money will go a lot further.
Yeah.
Now, bureaucracy in Mexico is another one that I think probably for me is one of the most frustrating with certain things. Banking, I'd say,
Number one.
is number one. I often tell people in my master class, if you don't need to open a Mexican bank account, don't. If you're not living here full time, you can draw money out of the ATM with your whatever you got, your RBC or your Citibank or whatever. You can use your bank cards down here, so it's easy to get pesos out.
Yeah, there's a lot of paperwork involved.
Yeah, to open a bank account, I would say in Canada, and I think the same in the US, you can probably open a bank account in about 30 minutes, maybe
Less.
20. And here it takes you 2 days, and I'm not exaggerating.
Right.
Your first meeting is about 4 hours. You sign a lot of stuff, and that's with the translator. If helping you, it can take even longer. It could be a day. It is a service we often provide, or we provide a checklist to what you have to say and do to our new owners. But then you have to go back the next day to finish it off. So, I'm sorry, banking system in Mexico, but you are my least favorite thing about your country.
We do it because we have
Yeah,
to.
TIM, this is Mexico. What else, Erin? Is there anything else that comes to mind for you?
Oh, with respect to bureaucracy?
Yeah, with respect to bureaucracy.
Well, I'm not for me specifically, but you, when you got your driver's license, there was an interesting piece about that.
Oh yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, let me think back to that. So I was living out in Portolan. We were, pardon me, and this is actually funny for what it was too. So we went to the place. I had a guy helping me out here with the language barrier. We just moved. I wanted to get a driver's license. I think it was important. We thought it was important. I needed it, so I'm gonna get a Oaxaca driver's license. And so I had to go to the place to get the license, and I had to get a form. If I'm remembering it, I didn't pay for anything there. Then I had to take that form to the bank, and I had to give it to the bank, and then I paid a fee at the bank, and then I had to take the receipt they gave me back to the place at the driver's license place and give them the receipt. Then they gave me another form, and I had to go to the hospital, and I had to get a blood test to find out what type of blood I was in, or am, which I now know again. And then with that form, I had to pay the hospital. I feel like I went to the bank twice for some reason, but then I had to go back with the form to the place with the driver's license, and then I got my driver's license. So
Wow.
it's a lot of trips. It was definitely a half a day or kind of a full day. I think we had lunch in between to get the license. But now, if I'm ever in an accident and I can't speak for myself, they know what type of blood I'm in for a blood transfusion.
Yeah.
So that's why they do it. So there was a method to the madness that made some sense in the end.
Yeah, important.
And I actually forgot about it and lost my license, and I got a new one. I'm like, oh, type O. Look at that. It's right
about
there.
that.
It's right there in my license. TIM. This is
Yeah.
Mexico.
Let's touch quickly on safety. We'll have another episode about
I
safety.
think we're going to do a whole episode on safety.
Should, for sure. But safety is different here. Security looks different. Like security presence is more visible. I think that was something I had to get used to living
Right.
here. Military presence, like guards with rifles, that are exposed.
They're exposed. They're driving around in the trucks.
Yeah,
in the
or
back
outside
of trucks.
the bank,
or they got full gear on. Like we'll see. The Navy, the Army, at
National
times,
Guard.
National Guard. Thank you. That's
Yeah.
what I was looking for. And they're dressed up in gear, like almost maybe what you'd see in a SWAT team or something back home. But it's not aggressive in any way, or you get used to it, right?
Yeah, I feel like there was a point where it made me nervous, but then I had this like moment of realization where it's like, no, they're here for my safety. So all is good. I want to see you, and like it's
Yeah. What I
You're
see
there for
is-
my security.
what I see different with the different levels of security, whether it's municipal police, National Guard, or maybe the Navy or Army around. There's definitely a presence factor, and that's what I think is an important thing to learn. They're not there necessarily because something wrong is happening, maybe sometimes, but they're there showing you like we're here to protect you and feel safe because of it. I know here in Watuco we have the Navy in Santa Cruz Bay, and Then out on the highway, we have the military there, so we feel really good about it. But, they'll drive with their lights on, sometimes drive around and just show that they're there. They're taking care of things. So have you ever felt unsafe here?
Never.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever.
Yeah. Me neither. And, I'm not going to get into the stories, but I've probably done all the wrong things, the things that people say don't do in Mexico. I've done them, I think. So, and I don't feel unsafe at all. And I just want to say, I used to really take it personal and be like, oh my God, do you feel safe down there? I'm like, yeah, of course I feel safe. And it's like, because we know how it is. We know how genuine the people are and how family oriented it is. But then I realized I can't blame people for asking that question because they've been fed so much propaganda.
Yeah.
How many people live in Mexico? Millions. It's not like everybody's like waking up and putting Kevlar on to go to work. And, it's so family oriented. So like, turn off the television and know this is a big, beautiful country. Is there drug violence? Yes. Just like in Canada, there's drug violence, and in the States, there's drug violence. It's targeted, to people in that industry.
That's right.
And people fighting the people in that industry. So
come down and enjoy and feel 100%
if that is the
safe.
reason for not coming to Mexico, shake it off and come experience it for yourself. I dare you.
One visit and you'll see.
Try it out. Yeah. So TIM, this is Mexico and safety. Well, I think a big thing a lot of people feel as a reason to come down here is the feeling of freedom. Mexico presents this feeling of freedom. TIM, this is Mexico. Feels different, but don't think there's no rules. Don't think there's no laws. There's definitely
of course there
rules
is.
and laws, and you can't just come down here and act like a jackass or something. You got to follow that kind of stuff. But this feeling prevents a little more of a theme I'd like to talk about before we finish.
And what's that theme?
Well, I'll just say, Erin and I, we are doing our best with our Mexico Living brand to share our lives. To share, it's kind of a show and tell of things we experience, things we learn, and share them with others. Because when we were deciding to do it, we felt a little overwhelmed as well to move here. And we had some great people giving us tips, some great people, guiding us. And so we wanted to pay it forward and pass it on and also share our experiences. So I've lost track of how many YouTube videos and how many blogs we have of sharing processes of, immigration, of driving through, of getting your visas, how to bring your pet down, blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on, all these blogs. And this is how you do it.
The right way to do it.
This is the right way to do it. So there's the right way to do it. And I'm not saying the other side, what I'm going to say next is the wrong way. There's the right way to do it. But then there's sometimes what actually happens. And it's not always as we write in the blog, because this is Flexico. It's Flexico. There's flexibility in procedures and in flexibility in things happening, and
how to get things done.
And that's what we love. That's why there's a feeling of freedom here, is because Mexico gives this feeling of flexibility.
Yes.
There's more than one ways to do something. And I'll bring it up. You can ask a question on how to get something done, or what's the law, what's the rule, how do you do this? How do you do this? How do you get this done? What's the process? You can ask 5 different people, get 5 different answers, but they're all correct, because this is Flexico. And I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So, it's good to get information. It's great to follow the rules, but don't get always too wrapped up in everything.
That's right.
There's often a solution when you have a problem. There's often a way to figure it out, because this is Flexico. Yeah.
And the general attitude I find of Mexicans is there's a culture of minimal complaining, I guess.
Definitely.
I see that. And, sorry to my fellow Canadians, but I feel like we love to complain about things sometimes, our ailments and what's going on in the world and just what's going on around us and the traffic and the weather. It impacts you.
It's true. Mexicans are generally pretty happy and they can
minimal
have
complainers.
lots of problems going on in their life, but they're not.
But you won't hear about
openly complaining about it all the time. It's interesting that you bring that up.
It's a culture thing, but it's what I see it all the time. I see it every day.
Like I see a Mexican person like kind of drowning. I'm like, you okay out there? Yeah, I'm good. Don't worry about me.
It's not going to complain.
He's not going to complain. So
walk it off.
This is Flexico.
Yeah. What else?
Well, I guess one of my favorite subjects, beer. Let's talk about the beer.
Okay.
Beer in public. How about so? Back home, if you want to go to the beach,
there's no beer in public.
There's no beer in public.
Without ticket.
Yeah, without a ticket. So here, if you want to, grab a little cooler and have some beer in it and go plunk down on the beach, not a problem. This is Flexico.
Yeah.
Same with, being around town. You can walk around with an open beer, have a few drinks. As long as okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
This is Flexico. So, this may vary in different cities.
For sure it does.
But definitely in the resort towns, there's flexibility for that. I say too, I've heard about this, still in the lines of beer. Might as well make a whole episode about beer. I think we could. I was born in 1976, and so this is me being told this, but I was told back in the days, things were, a little more common sense back then. The drinking and driving wasn't, probably as big a thing. People probably doing this had much more common sense back then, but it was acceptable to have a beer or a drink and go from point A to point B as long as you weren't getting wasted. And I hear people tell me, like, even the police, it was like, oh, good. Oh, you're just having one. No problem. Good to see you, Bob. Keep on going. And there was some flexibility there. So I'll say, my last 15 years, I've experienced that a little bit here in Huatulco, where I'd be driving around the client. We'd have a couple beers in our holster. Again, one beer, not, really doing the drinking and driving thing, but driving real slow, cruising around. Police pull us over, and the military's pull me over, and they kind of look, and it's like, it's Flexico. And they're like, no problem, amigo. Yeah. They could see we were, not partying. We were just sipping away, and it was cool. Now, I'll say this very lightly. I'm not condoning drinking and driving. And I'm not saying everywhere in Mexico is like this, because
certainly not.
I've had very different experiences in Mazatlan and Yucatan State, Merida, Progreso.
Rules are very different.
Rules are very different, but here in our little coastal town, they've been a little open. But
they let it slide.
Not inviting anybody to do this, and I think there should be a disclosure: do not try this at home or yourself.
Someone's going to say something, I'm sure.
Well, I've had some Flexico experience there, so. So, there's so many examples, and one of my other favorite ones is flying with Aero Toucan. Mm-hmm. So Aero Toucan's a small airline. It mostly flies...
Little puddle jumper?
Yeah, I think it's a 12-seater plane. Flies between Huatulco and Oaxaca City and Puerto Escondido. And I think it only flies a few times a week. So, you're trying to book a flight, you got a route, and you're kind of getting stressed out about, like, hitting their website. No one's returning. You're phoning them. Nobody's returning your call. And sometimes you just show up, or finally you do get a response. Okay, I got a ticket booked. Great. They didn't respond for 2 days, and you got a ticket booked, so it's a little Flexico. And then you show up, and you're like in the terminal. It's like, okay, like nobody's at the Aero Toucan desk. When are they going to receive me? It's like, it's 5 minutes to my flight. What's going on? And all of a sudden, toodle up, the pilot comes up, and somebody comes in. And they're like, oh, yeah, come on in. Yeah, we're going to leave in maybe another 30 minutes. We're waiting for a few people. We just got word, four of the passengers are late leaving.
We're going to wait for them.
So we're just going to wait for them. We're going to depart in another 25 minutes.
Go have a beer.
Okay, yeah, go chill, have a beer. And that was a beautiful thing with the small airlines. So
Yeah.
This is Flexico. so many great,
so many
great examples where there's a solution-based mentality.
Yeah.
And that's why, I just started calling Mexico Flexico like about a month ago in front of one of my Mexican friends, and he just loved it so much. He just laughed and laughed. So something that's been kind of catching on.
Yeah.
So if you are liking our content, please go to our channel and hit the subscribe button so you can get notified every time we do create a new video. You can also hit the notification bell so you get an alert when we do upload them. I am Brett May, and this is Made for Mexico with our episode theme, TIM. This is Mexico. I'm here with my lovely wife, Erin, talking over some of these amazing experiences we've had, reasons we love Mexico, and some other things that have been a little bit challenging that you just have to say TIM and you have to roll with it. So, Erin, if you were to give one piece of advice to our listeners out there who are moving to Mexico, what would it be?
Don't come here and try and change it. Come here and try and just experience it.
Great advice.
Just experience it.
Yeah.
You're not home anymore. You're in a different country with amazing people who have a different lifestyle than you. And that's why you're here.
Yes.
So come and enjoy it.
Come learn about the culture.
Enjoy the good and the bad and the quirky and the different. Either way, you're going to have a good time. There's no doubt you're going to have a good time in this country. So that's my advice.
Great advice. Yeah. Come here. Don't try and change it. TIM, this is Mexico. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Made for Mexico. TIM, this is Mexico. This is the show where we help you discover if you are made for Mexico. I am Brett May.
And I'm Erin May. Adios.